Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Waiter, and we are back. NBA mock draft episode is here, but we've got a little bit of news that kind of breaks this morning, a shocker, and we've got to go back to some news that broke last week that with the busy episode we had last week, we didn't quite squeeze this one smaller bit of information in. And then, of course, we've got our NBA mock draft to talk about, which is going to be a treat as always. And first and foremost, a week ago, the Chicago Bulls finalizing a deal to bring on Tiago Splitter as the next head coach for the franchise. This comes after Billy Donovan resigned from his position earlier in the offseason. And this kind of paints a clearer picture for what Chicago maybe looks to do this offseason. Tiago Splitter did a lot with a little last season in Portland, not to undersell the value of the players on the roster, but with everything that happened moments before the NBA season started with Chauncey Billups and Tiago Splitter just kind of being thrown in as this interim head coach, he marches this team into the playoffs. They get a game on the eventual Western Conference champs, San Antonio Spurs. And then because of a contract dispute, he ends up walking free and now heads to Chicago. And obviously, while he doesn't technically come from the Popovich coaching tree, obviously spent a lot of time with Greg Popovich in San Antonio, has a very close relationship there. And so I think you can expect some of those qualities of that San Antonio basketball to come over down to Chicago. But what I'm more excited about is, like I said, he did a lot with a little, and we saw a huge growth in Denny Ajava under Tiago Splitter. And a guy that I think could have a similar growth, plays a similar style of basketball, Matas Buzelis, kind of that same stretch wing player with that same kind of skill set, but younger, and I'd argue a little bit more athletic. So I think this is a big jump for the Bulls and what they look to do, obviously having the number 4 pick and then the number 15 pick in this draft as well could be huge. But your thoughts on Tiago Splitter to Chicago?
Well, I will say it again. If Portland wasn't going to hire him, I felt pretty confident someone was going to hire him. Because anyone that can lead a team to the postseason after the crap that hit their franchise, right when the season started, they're like, Tiago, you're the new coach. Get in there and try to figure this out. And somehow get into the playoffs. I'm like, hey, if you can get to the playoffs with that kind of lineup and during that kind of drama going on, imagine what he can do in a drama-free situation when he can actually have the time to grow and build the team. Now he's going to Chicago. Like I said, they're starting a full-scale rebuild pretty much with some young pieces that are still there, but they're starting the rebuild. And you're bringing him in, can be the start of something I think really special. Because let's face it, technically this is his first full-time coaching job, but we saw what he was able to do. Not only did they take a game from the Spurs, they realistically could have taken 2 or 3 games if they were able to finish out both those games in Portland, but they ultimately couldn't. So I personally think it's going to work out. Of course, it'll be interesting to see, like you said, he learned from Popovich in that Spurs tree of play. You kind of saw it at points, and especially with the forward position, like talk about with Buzelis, with the pieces that maybe the Bulls could be getting in the draft. Can he get the forward position to thrive like he did with Avia to go and have success like he did in Portland this year? Very intrigued to see what he does in Chicago. This is a perfect hire, I think, for the Bulls, given the rebuild circumstances.
Yeah, and then obviously let's talk the big coaching hire that broke today.
Woo!
Kind of jumped out of nowhere for everybody, but the Dallas Mavericks bring on Dusty May to be their next head coach, and to pair this along with Masai Ujiri as the new GM / president of player operations. This is a full-scale kind of rebuild in Dallas. Also, we kind of talk about Cooper Flagg looks like the future. I would say kind of all bets are off for anybody else on this Mavericks roster. And I think we might expect some of that to shake up this offseason and into the trade deadline next year. But I like this move. Dusty May has really been a phenomenal coach at the college level. What he did with FAU is pretty remarkable. And then to get to Michigan and not, fail under the spotlight. He came in high pressure, had a really good team this year. They played really, really well in Big Ten play. Obviously, had a great tournament run. So I think it's hard to undersell the value of Dusty May and what he could bring to your organization. Obviously, it's going to be a different jump from the NCAA to the NBA, but I think this is a good, exciting hire that is going to get your program or get your franchise really a big boost coming into next season and a lot of hype behind this rebuild.
Yeah, I'm just still speechless about how this even came to be. Because again, this came out the day we are recording. This came out this morning, where it's a day before the NBA draft, and all of a sudden this morning, we're anticipating all kinds of other news going around about a certain guy for the Bucks. There's all kinds of rumors going on there. We heard all kinds of rumors. We never really heard anything about the Mavericks coaching search. And there were all the rumors about Dusty May like the second he won the national championship in Michigan. And then he shut those rumors down like pretty quickly. He shut them down like
Yeah,
super quick. And I'm like, okay, well, that was an interesting thought. And so I just never even gave thought that he would go back. But to get him, look, I'll say it like this: Dustin May is a good coach. Again, he's we've seen what he's been able to do. Took FAU to a Final Four, multiple 35 plus win seasons, then goes to Michigan, turns them around in year one to Sweet 16 appearance, then national championship the next year. And I tell you this, I think Cooper Flagg's very happy with this hire. I think it's someone
yeah,
that is familiar with his game. Obviously, I bet someone that tried to convince Cooper Flagg to come to Michigan and things of that nature. So there's all kinds of history there. There's also kind of history in Austin. Let's say it like it is. College coaches going straight from college to the NBA, it either works really well and you're there a long time, or you are gone super quickly. On the positive side, Brad Stevens went from Butler to now he is thriving in the NBA. Billy Donovan, even though obviously um,
yeah.
now that he's fired, but he's been a coach in the NBA since 2015, so he's been around for a long time.
And that jump for Billy Donovan from Florida to OKC, I mean, those OKC teams under Billy Donovan were
Mm-hmm.
really well coached and really talented teams.
Yeah, but then you look at some of the other ones. John Beeline, last Michigan coach who made the jump, didn't even last a full season because they started 14 and 40. I'm sorry to bring this one up because I know it's going to sting. Fred Hoiberg, obviously, is
Yeah, that was a tough
another
one.
one. Rick Pitino struggled in the NBA, and that's coming from Rick Pitino, who's one of the greatest college basketball coaches ever. So, look, I'm just saying, I will root for Dusty May. I hold nothing against him. The dude's a great coach.
Yeah,
I hope he succeeds. But like I said, in the NBA with these college to NBA transitions, he's either going to be there for 10 plus years or he's going to be back in college basketball within the next 3 years. I mean, that's just straight to the point. But it does leave questions as we talked about. We're going to do our mock drafts. Does this pivot anything that Dallas does in this NBA draft? We're going to find out because there is plenty of options from a team that just won a national championship.
yeah, I agree with you. But speaking of this mock draft, let's go ahead and get into it. Obviously, some other big news, some other speculation, but that's going to come here in our mock draft.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I don't know about you, but I have quite the exciting mock draft. If the NBA draft can be this exciting tomorrow night, I'll be excited about it.
Same
But
here. Same here. I'm ready to dive into it again. Like I talked about before, it's been forever since we've done one, and that's because I don't think we've really anticipated an NBA draft much like this one. There's so much talent everywhere. This is one of the deepest draft classes we might ever see. And I'm ready to talk about it because there's so many great pieces that are coming into this class.
yeah. So at number one, we have the Washington Wizards picking. Obviously, all the hype, all the drama around this pick. Darren Peterson only wants to work out for Washington. AJ DeBonsta hasn't worked out for anybody. If he says, you know what you're going to get with me. So this is quite the position to be in. Where do you have the Wizards going here with the number one overall pick?
So we'll say, ladies and gentlemen, there's obviously, in case you don't know, there's going to be some trades in this draft. I do not have one here at number one. Obviously, all the rumors about Darren Peterson going here, to me, they shut down really about freaking what 30 minutes ago when I sent that to you, which
Yeah.
is the obvious thing of Trae Young signing with the Washington Wizards on a 4-year, 200 something million dollar deal. That makes me think, okay, so that seals their fate. They're picking AJ DeBonsta with the number one pick in the draft. And me and you said a million times, I'll say it one more time, you can go. If he is not your pick at number one, trade this and get some value. Otherwise, that's who you're picking at number one. End of discussion.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. AJ DeBonsta has to be the guy. I just don't think the Wizards are going to be the guys making this pick here. I think there's so much value in this number one overall pick, and there's so much value that you can get out of Utah who wants DeBonsta. Keep him in state. I mean, this is a huge shot in the arm for their fan base and for their organization if they can make this happen. I think this is the no-brainer move here for Washington. I've got Washington trading out of the number one pick, and in return, they're going to receive the number two overall pick in this deal to go along with Utah's top 8 protected 2029 first round pick, Utah's 2031 first round pick unprotected, and Cody Williams. And for me, I think the Wizards can make this deal because they need a lot at 2 and 3, and to get Cody Williams, I think is going to be a help. To get some depth in the in future drafts is going to be big, and you're still going to get one of these top 2 talents, and that leaves Utah to be able to get their hands on AJ DeBonsta, who I think is going to be an instant impact kind of guy for this team.
Wow. Yeah, give me a trade at the number one. I'm with you. I see what you were talking about with your excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get a trade at the number one pick. Heck yeah.
Let's spin it to number 2, where we've already got varying teams, but I'm sure not varying players. You've got the Utah Jazz. I've got the Washington Wizards. What pick do you have being made here?
Well, I look at the Jazz, and in case y'all don't know the rumors, obviously Carlos Boozer recently joined the Utah Jazz front office. He's not like a GM role, but he's in their front office. So, I mean, let's say it like it is. There's an obvious pick standing out there if you want to go that way. But let's remember, they just traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. They have Lauri Markkanen. They have Walker Kessler. All these guys in the forward position already. Like, I get if you pick Bouger here, it would maybe boost that, but also would just put it'd be a really crowded front court there. And I feel like we'd be talking about the Sixers all over again with Noel, with Embiid, with all those guys again. Wow, who's I missing? Noel, Embiid,
Jahlil Okafor.
Okafor, thank you. I couldn't think. I completely forgot about Okafor. But that's what my thinking was. So I went with Darren Peterson going here at number 2. And I get that they already have Isaiah Collier and Keontae George, some of these young guards. Keontae George was good in moments. I think you could put Keontae George at the 2, personally, if it was me. Darren at the 1, Keontae George at the 2. And then maybe you could figure out, what do you do with Ace Bailey, who had good moments? Do you run him at the 3, or do you make some moves and put Markkanen at the 3 and Jackson at the 4, or 5 and 4 there? You can make a lot of different moves with this lineup if you pick Peterson, and I think that's the move that makes sense for them if they're not trading up to pick DeBonsta, like you said.
Yeah. At number 2, I've got Washington, but I've got the same guy in Darren Peterson here. To me, I know you bring back Trae Young on the big deal. But Trae Young is so small, and there's not a lot of depth at guard for me, legitimate depth. And I think Darren Peterson comes in and he's an instant starter at the 2. He's 6'6", so he brings good size, adds that depth to that guard room that really needs it. And now I think this team's really big time upgraded if they can add Cody Williams and Darren Peterson onto this roster. So let's take it to number 3. We've got the Memphis Grizzlies. So far, we've got the same guys going in the same spot. What do we got going here at number 3?
So with Memphis, to me, really, I'll say it personally, the top 4 guys have kind of separated themselves as of late. At least I kind of feel like that. And one of the ones that sticks out, Memphis, who did they just trade at the deadline this year? Jaren Jackson Jr. And who's there as a forward that a lot of people think has the biggest upside of anyone in this draft? And that's Cam Boozer. I think Cam Boozer, if the board works out this way, has got to be the pick. We've seen when he was able to score from the post with his footwork. We've seen that. Hits the three at a pretty decent volume, too, so he can help stretch the floor. Obviously, there's questions maybe about his deficiencies on defense compared to Jaren Jackson Jr., but he's got so much upside. I think he's one you got to pick here number three, whether you're keeping Jaw or not. That's got to be the move.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And at this spot, I just want to say this. Cam Boucher coming into the college basketball season was the projected number one overall
Yep, absolutely.
in this draft. And I don't think he didn't go number one because he had a bad season by any means. So I think for the Grizzlies here, who don't really need help in that guard room right now, obviously having Jaw right now, I think the more prevalent roster need with a lot of things that have happened for this team over the past year, they need help in that front court. I think Cam Boucher, the guy that was projected to be number one in this class, I think this is a great get to get at number three.
And you pair him up with Edie now in the front court. That's not horrible. And again, if they do move on from Jaw, they still have Walter Clayton Jr., who we've seen be unbelievable in moments. So they've still got a lot of young pieces there in Memphis here with this pick.
Then we go to number four. We've got the Chicago Bulls picking here, my Chicago Bulls. So don't do me wrong here, though. Again, I feel like the top four, like you said, kind of line themselves out kind of nicely.
Yeah, I hope I'm not doing you wrong here. I'm not trying to. I will say that. I'm not trying to. To me, at this point, like I said, I feel the top four have kind of separated themselves. And I think at this point, that pick will probably end up being Caleb Wilson from North Carolina. He's one of the more gifted athletes in the draft. You know, the thing that worries me, though, is he's not necessarily been the greatest jump shot, has the greatest jump shot, not the best shooter in the world, but athletic ability, attacking the basket. He's great off-ball defender. He's got great speed. And I mean, I think he's going to work. Again, another one of those where you're just buying in on his potential. And the Chicago Bulls, I think, is a good rebuild place. You've talked about it. With Giddey and Buzelis being there already, I think this is a good place where he can kind of come in and play with those guys and be successful in Chicago there to jumpstart things. And also, again, I think the excitement of the Tiago splitter hire with what he was able to do with Portland in the forward position they had there. Caleb Wilson might be that next guy for him.
Yeah, I like Caleb Wilson here a lot. Really, for the Bulls, Boozer or Caleb Wilson is going to end up here, and you have to take one of those guys. So deficient down low for so many years, and then especially after this past trade deadline where the Bulls basically shipped off anybody that was over the height of 6'10". So coming into this year, you're going to need a lot of help down low. I know Noah Segway has grown to 7 feet tall and basically his red shirt rookie season in the NBA where he got injured right at the beginning of the year. He's shot up to 7 feet tall, so that's obviously
one of the latest growth spurts I've ever seen. Like, where the heck did that come from?
It's incredible that's happened for us. So obviously you get a little bit of help, and he's kind of going to act as like a third first-round pick coming into next year, but still getting Caleb Wilson and having more depth in the front court and more size I like. And so even like you said, he may not be able to stretch the floor, at least not right away in the NBA, but just to have somebody who even has good presence down low with his athleticism and his rebounding prowess, that's somebody that I think can improve this Bulls roster from what it looked like last season. Let's take it into the number 5 pick now. This is the LA Clippers, and kind of a double-edged sword for you here because it was a trade between your top two teams. But for the Pacers, it kind of screwed them out of really being able to set themselves up. Not that they're in a bad spot coming into next season with Tyrese coming back, but to have the number 5 overall pick in this class with Tyrese coming back would have been nice. But it's the Clippers who are picking here, so still a little bit of excitement for you coming into this pick. What do you think the Clippers are going to do here?
I think, number one, to this day, I get the risk the Pacers did with that deal. So end of the day, I'm still happy Zubac is there. We knew there was just a risk that we were going to have to take. but also that Pacers team was dealing with a lot of injuries. They'll be fully healthy to start next year, and they'll go from there. So I'm really not too worried about that. With the Clippers here, to me, it's weird because depending on what you're doing with this guard room, you need a specific guard, I think, to be that one next to Darius Garland if you want this team to be successful in the future. And I think you can get that guard a little bit further down the board because I love Darius Acuff. Y'all don't know Darius Acuff, Razorback, love the guy. Um, I just don't think he would be a good fit with Garland here. And that's nothing against Acuff. That's nothing against Darius Garland. They're just basically the same player.
Yeah.
And that just won't work. So I have the team that's been rumored to get him pretty much the whole time. And I want it to be known, I don't want this to happen because I don't want Darius to go with this team. But I really see it happen. I have the Kings jumping up from 7 to 5 to select Darius here. Everything I've seen as far as reports, they love Darius. And all I can say is for Sacramento, don't screw up with a generational point guard again like you did when you had three amazing point guards on your roster. And I hope Darius can do good things in Sacramento. I'm a bit worried if he ends up going there, but this is a really good trade for the Kings to get Darius because speaking as someone who watched him play every single game this year, his scoring ability has been great. He doesn't turn the ball over, a really good playmaker. His defense is obviously the question mark, but if you can build defense around him, he can thrive in the NBA.
Yeah, I've got the Clippers staying put here. I agree with you. I think probably if they move down, they can probably get somebody that still fits with them. But to me, the guy you've got to get right here is Keaton Wagler. This guy was awesome at Illinois this year, and to be able to stick him in at 6'6", I think he's got the versatility where he's comfortable handling the ball if you really want him to bring the ball up the floor. But like you said, having Darius Garland, you're not really going to need him to play the one. But I think he also has enough versatility playing in that very physical, defensive-minded scheme at Illinois under Brad Underwood. I think he can match up well with some threes in the NBA as well. So depending on obviously what happens with Benedict Mathurin and how this team decides to move guys around, obviously Kawhi kind of has played a lot of 4, and I think the lineup where Kawhi plays 4 and you have Mathurin at the 3 and Wagler at the 2 would really work. But I like Keaton Wagler. I think he's a big upgrade to this team. They've been trying to find kind of that shooting guard for this team for a while, whether it's been Beal or Harden, just haven't really worked. And I think this right here can kind of solve that problem. They've reset the clock with this team a little bit because Kawhi is getting older, and rumors about what might happen with Kawhi this offseason have kind of come up. I don't really know that we're going to see any. I don't know that anybody who's been rumored to get Kawhi Leonard has enough to get Kawhi Leonard.
Exactly.
I just don't see a world where Kawhi Leonard comes off the best season he's ever had, especially from an offensive standpoint, and the Clippers take Jimmy Butler and some second-round picks. Nothing against Jimmy Butler, a guy I love to death, but he's coming off a brutal injury. I just don't see in any world that that's a realistic trade for anybody to make. There's going to have to be a lot more value. But even so, the clock is reset on this team, getting Mathurin, getting Garland. This is a reset for this team in age. And so Kawhi, maybe this isn't a championship caliber team with Kawhi, but he can help mentor this team and kind of guide them as a veteran and put these guys on the right track. So I think Keaton Wagler gets the Clippers on the right track.
And again, I'm just speaking as someone who's followed the Clippers for years. For years, I wondered, ever since the obvious big-time trade happened, you wondered, what the heck is the future plan here once Kawhi and everyone goes? And now they have some sort of plan with that backcourt at least, some sort of plan there.
Yes.
And something that, hey, if Kawhi does leave this offseason, like all the rumors you're seeing, we have something to build on. So that's something that I think is a big win. And if they were to stay there, Wagler, I would not hate that pick for them. I would not hate it.
Yeah, I agree. At number 6, it's the Brooklyn Nets. Still for both of us for now. Do you have another trade here, or where do you have the Nets going?
No, not a trade here. I tried because genuinely I don't know what the Nets do here. And I was like, oh, let me look up maybe like what's going on with them. Is there any like stuff coming out? Yeah, they're people, even like the insiders, like, we have no idea what the Nets are doing. And I'm like, well, okay, so pivot here. Where do they go? Uh, and to me, again, you could look at one of the best players available. They could trade back realistically because remember they had what 5 first round picks last year, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that? And it was a whole bunch of passers because they had Michael Porter Jr. there with Cam Thomas, so they had to pass the ball a lot. To me, though, the pick I went with Mikael Brown Jr., the guard from Louisville. I think this is one where obviously the injuries at the end of the year could maybe make people back off him and go further. I also look at it this way as he's going to the Nets, a team that has zero expectations for next year. He can get 100% healed from that back injury. And we saw when he was healthy this year at Louisville, the man was a marksman. He has the unstoppable pull-up jumper. I think that's one of the things I said every time I saw the pull-up jumper was one of his best things. Insane finishing ability, great passer. I know you have. They got the one from for BYU last year. Was that Igor
Yeah,
Devin or something
Igor.
like that? I get that, but you could put him at the two, Mikael Brown at the one. But the Nets really could go anywhere. For right now, with where they're at, best talent available really should be the pick here.
Yeah, I agree. And I was on my board, I was between Acuff and Mikael Brown here. I think they'll go point guard. I don't think Igor was bad for them, but I don't think he was enough of a point guard for them. And I think they need somebody that can run the floor for them. Ultimately, my decision making kind of came into Mikael Brown's a little bit bigger, and kind of the way the Nets have been building this team, they've got a lot of bigger guys. I don't know if
Yep.
that's exactly kind of the idea, but they've got a lot of guys that kind of clock in bigger height wise. I like going Mikael Brown here. I could really see it as a toss up, especially if Acuff is still on the board. But
Yep.
I'm with you. I think Mikael Brown is the guy that the Nets are going to hone in on here. That brings us to the number 7 overall pick, where I have the Sacramento Kings and you have the LA Clippers. What do you have the Clippers doing here?
Yeah, I'm sticking here, and I think you traded back. You got some assets. You moved back. You got a couple second rounders in the deal and stuff. Just making sure you get the spot where you want the guy. And the one I have them picking, I think he would fit well next to Darius Garland. That's Braden Burries from Arizona. Uh, I love him because he's a physical, versatile scorer. He can beat you at any level. He rebounded like a forward in every game I saw this year, and he competes his butt off on the defensive end. I think that's a great fit next to Darius, who again maybe has his defensive efficiencies. Now you have Burries there next to him, and you got Kawhi Leonard, two really good defenders around him. Not to mention, obviously, with Burries, his shooting history before Arizona wasn't great. I remember because he was hitting threes against Arkansas, and they're like, not a great 3-point shooter in his whole career. And I get that's maybe a worry, but the versatility he brings when it comes to rebounding and defense go along with the potential he has for shooting the ball. I think that makes sense and be a good fit with Garland and the Clippers here at 7.
I like it. All right, I may have lied. I do have a trade happening right here.
Hey,
I don't actually have the Kings picking here. I've got a 3-team trade going here.
ooh,
Way to work the cap for all of these teams and make sure the best possible deal happens. I've got the Kings, Bulls, and Mavericks engaging in a 3-team
ooh,
trade
that's
here.
good.
The Bulls received the Kings 2026 number 7 overall pick in this deal, alongside a 2027 second round pick via Charlotte and Klay Thompson. The Kings received Josh Giddey in the 15th overall pick, and the Dallas Mavericks received DeAndre Hunter and a 2029 second round pick. And
Wow.
to me, it's simple. For the Kings, you get Josh Giddey, and you still get a pick just outside the lottery in this awesome draft class where you upgrade your playmaking, which was obviously disastrous last year. But you don't necessarily have to abandon what you've built so far with DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and Domantas Sabonis. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Now you've got a young all-star caliber point guard to maybe help guide you on the right path. For the Chicago Bulls, it's simple. They have been wanting to trade up into 7, 8, 9 here and land Darius Acuff. It's that simple. This
Hey,
is the deal that they want to make. He's very Derrick Rose-esque in my mind.
I like it.
They've really honed in on Acuff. A lot of teams have. He's had awesome workouts. This is a rumor. They've wanted to get into one of these spots. I think at this time, this is the time bringing in Tiago Splitter, rebuilding the front office. We can bail out of this Josh Giddey nonsense that I don't really care for.
Yeah.
It's not that he's bad. The $20
It's
million salary
yeah,
just doesn't fit
that's
what
it.
we're doing.
Hmm.
We need a reset. And for the Mavericks, they get a free second round pick. They get to work their way out of Klay Thompson's contract, which they're obviously seem tired of, and they get
Yeah.
to bring in the younger DeAndre Hunter, who can maybe get a reset in Dallas and kind of step back to where he was 2 years ago.
Wow.
So I got the Bulls taking Darius Acuff after this big, massive deal. Again, I think he's very Derrick Rose-esque. The Bulls want to move up. They want to get a point guard and help really establish this rebuild around Buzelis. And now that they've got Caleb Wilson, you get another freak athlete to add to this team. And Tiago Splitter's team next year looks a lot better.
Hey, I don't get me wrong. Again, wherever Darius Acuff goes, I'm going to essentially become a fan of that team because Darius, again, is to this day, and again, with Calipari, I hope it isn't the last one that I say this with, but he's my favorite Razorback I've watched in like my time growing up. He was so good, and I see your arguments for Derrick Rose there. I see him or Allen Iverson as the comparison for me. It's one of those two, and I mean
Yeah.
either one's. Last I checked, both of those guys are really good in their prime. So yeah, be a good pick for the Bulls there, pick 7.
Then at pick number 8, Atlanta Hawks on the board for you and I. Where do you have Atlanta going here after kind of a surprising turnaround second half of this season after parting ways with Trae Young? This team goes to the playoffs and gets 2 games against the defending or against the now reigning NBA champs. More games than anybody else was able to win on this team in the postseason.
Well, I say this again. That was a great move. That was a great season for them to get that compete with the Knicks, especially when you look at what the rest of the season ended like. But Austin, our nightmare as NBA fans is over here. This is where the 3-team Giannis trade happens for me. We got a
Wow.
3-team deal here. In this deal, the Milwaukee Bucks will obviously send Giannis to Atlanta, right? No, to Boston. In exchange for that, the Atlanta Hawks pick up Jaylen Brown, and the Atlanta Hawks will send Jonathan Kuminga, Zachary Richichet, Corey Kispert, and picks number 8 and 23 in this draft to the Milwaukee Bucks in this trade. I think it's a good deal for everyone. The Celtics get Giannis like it's rumored to happen. The Hawks get a new face of the franchise in Jaylen Brown to compete with some of the faces where they were super bright last year. And the Bucks get 2 other first round picks and some other pieces to build around with this team. I think this is a win for all 3 teams. So I have the Bucks here at pick 8 now. And I think one of the things they're going to do is I now have them with 3 first rounders is go and figure out this guard position for the future. And that's getting Keen Wagler here from Illinois, I think, with this first one. Someone you can come in, set this guard room from the jump. And as you'll see later with this, and obviously 2 other first round picks, he's coming in with some other rookies that I think could pair well with him. But there it is, Austin. That is if the Giannis trade ever actually happens. We wondered if it would happen for months. If this is the deal that happens, I think it'd be really great for the NBA because 3 teams involved, getting great players in the deals.
I'm glad that's the Giannis trade you went with because I have gone in a different direction with my Giannis trade, which will come up a little bit
I
later.
like it.
But I'm glad that we're going to paint both sides of the rumor mill here with the Giannis
Yeah,
trade saga. Gives us a nice wide range and
I
skill.
like it. I like it.
But at number 8, I have the Atlanta Hawks staying put. And for me, they need a replacement at point guard. It doesn't necessarily have to be Trae Young. I know they have CJ McCollum, but I like CJ McCollum as kind of like the off-ball 2 guard who can handle it when he needs to. And so here I've got them taking Kingston Flemings out of Houston. This guy was awesome last year. And I think a little bit of the difference that Kingston Flemings is going to bring to this team, that CJ McCollum doesn't bring at the one and that Trae Young didn't bring at the one is he's going to come with that gritty kind of defensive background out of Houston. A lot of guys out of Houston come with that defensive mindset. There's a reason these guys are competitors every single year in the NCAA tournament. And I think that kind of adds the edge that this team is missing. How do you stop Jalen Brunson from scoring 30 on you every night? Let's get somebody that can play some defense on him.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be a big upgrade for Atlanta.
All right, I like it.
Now it's been in the number 9 overall pick here, where we've got the Dallas Mavericks selecting. I will just go ahead and say I have updated my draft as of
Same.
signing. So my pick will be very telling of that. But I wonder if yours does the same. Where do the Dallas Mavericks, Dusty May, and Masai Ujiri, where do they land here at number 9?
I think there's multiple ways they can go here. Obviously, the obvious Michigan pieces. But also, I think you look at the way you said with Dallas, with Masai Ujiri and them coming in, starting of a little bit of a rebuild around Cooper Flag. And how do you speed up a rebuild? You get more picks to get more players. This is my next trade I have happening.
Wow.
I have the Oklahoma City Thunder trading picks 12 and 17 to move up to number 9 in this deal. And the Thunder will get Ademara, the center from Michigan. We talked about Hartenstein, them most likely letting him walk in free agency. This would be a phenomenal pickup in Mara. Someone you could look at as maybe at the start of his career, great backup, phenomenal passer. His NCAA tournament was absolutely incredible, and the reason probably why he's projected to go this high. But a great passer, runs the offense well, good rebounder, can come off the bench. And if, like we talked about, if they ever decide maybe we move on from Chet Holmgren, I think he could come in and fill in at center position there for the Thunder. But I think if the Thunder are smart, with Hartenstein entering free agency, they save their money, they trade up, knowing they can't use all these picks with the roster given where it's at. And obviously with that Wiggins deal the night before going to Atlanta, I think this is the move they got to make to get Mara is be their new center with Holmgren.
I like that move. I've got a Mara going here too, but I've got him staying in Dallas.
I like that.
Dusty May, instant upgrade at center. I like Derek Lively, but it seems the contract situation and the money he's going to be owed going to be a little much for Masai Ujiri and company as they look to, again, kind of reset this team. You look at a guy like Daniel Gafford, who's also there on big money. I think this gives you a reset at the center position right now, and that kind of helps guide you back on a better path here and gets Dusty May a little familiarity with a guy he coached in college at Michigan.
All right.
And number 10, I believe we both still have the Milwaukee Bucks picking here. But who do you got Milwaukee going with your second Bucks pick of the first round?
My second one. Well, I got him the guard with that first pick in Keen Wagler. Now with this one, this is where they go and they get someone. If you know this Bucks franchise, when they bought Giannis, when they drafted Giannis, they said we're buying in to his upside and what we think he can be when he gets to his prime. And I think they do that again at the small forward position. I got them picking Nate Ament from Tennessee with this number 10 pick here. I think he pairs really well with Keaton Wagler and a guy who was hot and cold in college, yes, but he had some really great moments to go with some others. Super young guy, true freshman. And like I said, the Bucks build and go with upside a lot of the time. And Nate Ament has a high upside at that small forward spot. And we're going with a rebuild, getting a guy with high upside at that small forward position to replace Giannis. Not a bad move, if I do say so myself.
I'm with you. I've got Nate Ament going here too. I agree. I think we both came into this with the mindset Giannis is going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the guy I think that is that kind of instant upgrade there at that 3 or 4 spot where he's going to kind of give you that new direction. He is the Giannis replacement. Like you said, hot and cold in the tournament, but I like the upside. I like the potential. I think the Bucks will too. At number 11, Golden State Warriors selecting here. Who do you have the Warriors coming home with if you got the Warriors picking here at all?
I do have the Warriors picking here. This one, I genuinely did not know where to go because I really don't know what the future plan is as far as Warriors. I know Steve Kerr signed that 2-year deal, which makes me think they're wanting to go all in on competing. But I just don't know. So the one I had them going with, kind of a wild card pick. I wouldn't say one of the big names. That's Karam Lopez, who is 6'8", New Zealand international forward. Had to do some research on him because whenever I was doing my mock drafts, I started about a month ago is when I truly started kind of looking into this. I saw him kept on popping up on the boards. I'm like, who is this guy? And I learned about him. He's arguably the best prospect Mexico has ever produced to come to the NBA. He played professionally starting at the age of 14 years old.
Wow.
And he's grown. He checks a lot of the boxes. He's got the physical tools. He's well rounded. He can defend multiple positions, which is obviously something the Warriors do with Steve Kerr, the history of small ball, mixing up lineups. I think I get the argument for maybe going with other guys who are great, you better shooters here, but you lose Jonathan Kuminga and that future, that forward position. And if you're running it with Steph and Steve Kerr for the next 2 years, you got to try to find something here. And I think Lopez has all the skills to enhance Steph Curry as a key piece on hopefully a team that is going to try to compete for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think forward, specifically four, is really where this team needs to upgrade coming into next season. As I like to call it, that's the Draymond Green spot, and they need a new Draymond Green. Not necessarily a guy that plays like Draymond Green, but a guy that reminds me a little bit of Draymond Green. And Yaxel Lindenberg out of Michigan. I like this pick here because he's a really talented scorer, and he uses his size really well. And I think he could be a good replacement for Draymond Green, especially under the mentorship of Green. I think he could really shift into another talented, stretch 4 or 5 kind of guy like Draymond Green was. So I think this is the big upgrade for this team that, like you said, can still kind of go in on that all in with Steve Kerr over these next couple of years, but still be a guy that kind of guides this team into the future.
I like that. And also the thing, obviously, the question some people have is, oh, yeah, actually, he's 24 years old. I look at it as he's got a ton of experience. And if he goes to the Warriors there, I think that's a good fit there. It was between him or Lopez, and I kind of went with the middle ground of he can help them compete, but also be someone they can build around for the future. So I understand that was the guy I was projected to pick originally for the Warriors.
Then at number 12, I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. You've got the Dallas Mavericks. Where do you have the Mavs going here in wake of Dusty May's hiring?
Well, this is where the Michigan guy comes off the board here. And this is kind of where my thing shifted. You got to get a Michigan guy to Dallas in this deal
Yeah.
now that it's happened. I mean, come on. This is where I have Yaxel Lendeborg going here. I think you could put Cooper Flag at the 3, him at the 4. Those two together at the forward position, I think could play really well off of each other. So pure and simple to the point. He gets a guy that I think could pair up well with Cooper Flag. Super aggressive. Both guys can handle the basketball well. Could be a good 1-2 punch for the future there in Dallas under Dusty May.
Yeah, I like that move a lot. I've got the Thunder making a very similar move here at 12. I think you're right. The first thing that comes to my mind with what this team has done is, hey, we have got to find somebody who can challenge Wemby. That's the goal in mind, obviously. We want to get back to that moment. If we've got to play Wemby again, we've got to be able to stop him. We can beat everybody else in their mind, but we couldn't stop Wemby, and we need a way to stop that. And my two guys, I was between Hans Steinbeck out of Washington and Morez Johnson Jr. out of Michigan. And
Yeah.
ultimately, I went with Morez Johnson Jr. And my big thing is with Hans Steinbeck, even though he's got the 2 inches, he's almost 7 feet tall, and he challenged Wemby a little bit more height-wise. His defensive fundamentals and techniques are not really there yet. And for a team that wants to be competing now, you really don't want to have to start developing your starting or potentially backup center who's going to be playing a lot of time.
Yep.
And you really need him for defense. You don't want to make a pick on a guy who's got some downsides on the defensive end of the ball, especially with a guy like Wemby who can stretch it out and really take advantage of that bad footwork. So I went with Morez Johnson. Even though he gives up a little bit more height, he's a really physical, really gritty defender. And I think he kind of gives that edge that's going to help in stopping guys like Wemby. And he's a really, really good rebounder for his height.
I like that pick, especially for two things. Number one, size has not stopped the Thunder from picking that forward center position before. Jalen Williams, heard of him, anybody? And the other thing I love about Morez Johnson, he's just that underrated guy, that piece on the national championship for Michigan that really didn't get as much credit nationally. He's a guy who set bone crushing screens that springs the stars open. That's what he did in Michigan. He's going to go play with the league MVP. I feel like that could be something good. Then immediately sprints to the rim for lob opportunities. And then he turns around the defensive end and can blow up other teams' pick and roll opportunities. All in one sequence, essentially. So I like that Morez Johnson pick. I think that's a really good one if he goes to the Thunder.
Then number 13, the Miami Heat are on the board. Where do you have them going here?
Austin, let me tell you about this Miami Heat culture. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Look, if Pat Riley is still there and Eric Spoelstra and that whole Miami culture is still there, which at this point it seems like it, especially with all the rumors I'm hearing about the Giannis deal and who they're willing to not give up and give up. I look at Guy and I'm like, who's someone talented enough, but also someone that has a bit of a chip on his shoulder as someone that could be really tough on the defensive end and also help them in the scoring variety at the guard position. And I land on Kingston Flemings. I think Kingston Flemings would be a phenomenal fit in Miami there, pairing with Davion Mitchell. Good defensive guards. They're scrappy, super tough. And Fleming's scoring ability at the guard position might lead to him starting over Davion Mitchell, but it gives them something there, especially if they could lose Tyler Hero this offseason. They need some more scoring at that guard position. I think Kingston Fleming brings that, but also matches that Heat culture with that toughness on the defensive end.
Here at 13, this is where I've got my Giannis trade going through.
There we
So the
go.
other side of the Giannis trade spectrum, I've got Miami landing Giannis, and in return, they're going to send off Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, the 13th overall pick, 2026 and 2029 unprotected first-round picks, and pick swaps in 2028 and 2030. I think this is probably the best package that Miami has, and it's a realistic possibility. I think that's a little bit more to offer than just what Boston has to offer on their own. But obviously, like you said, if Boston can get Atlanta to play ball a little bit in that trade, hard to turn down that kind of assets to get in a deal with Atlanta. But I wanted to go with the Miami way. A lot of people are talking Boston, so I wanted to throw the Miami deal.
I like it. We just all these years we just know, man. We just know.
We just know. So at number 13, I've got the Milwaukee Bucks. I still think about replacing Giannis in the front court. We've got to replace him in the aggregate. Obviously, Nate Ament is not going to be Giannis entirely on his own. So let's go get a 6'4" freak from Washington, or a 6'11" freak, sorry, from Washington, and Haynes Steinbeck. And let's bring that guy in and let him kind of be our new front court presence. Obviously, Miles Turner wasn't really bad, but big contract and doesn't really kind of fit what's going on. And now at the reset, they might move him away from him altogether. I think Hans Steinbeck really gives them this boost in the front court. And to have 6'10" Nick Ament and 6'11" Heinz Steinbeck, I'm just saying, this Milwaukee rebuild could be really scary getting guys like that.
I like that. I like that one. Also, you factor in Bobby Portis isn't getting any younger. He could be gone too. So I like addressing that front court with that pick. That's a good pickup. I like it.
At number 14, Charlotte Hornets. Hang on the board here. Who do you have the Hornets taking here after a really good season?
Yeah, for the first time in a bit, you actually have hope for the Hornets franchise after the way this season went. It's felt like, to me, they need some more help in the front court, I think, and just overall toughness on the roster. They've got the scorers, LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple. You got great scoring. Get tougher and stronger on defensive end, the front court. And a guy you just talked about, Morez Johnson Jr. from Michigan, I think would be a perfect fit here going to the Hornets. Again, someone that would kind of give you something maybe that Miles Bridges doesn't really bring as much, along with being a good person, unlike Miles Bridges. Fighting through screens, going on the defensive and offensive end, looking at lob opportunities. LaMelo's always looking to set people up for opportunities. I think Morez Johnson, if my mock draft was 100% correct, this would be one of my favorite picks because I think he'd be a perfect fit in Charlotte if he landed there.
Yeah, I like how your approach is similar to mine with the Hornets in this draft. What can we do to factor out Miles Bridges and get him out of the NBA? That was my mindset coming into this. And at number 14, Moritz Johnson is not there for me. Obviously, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go with the guy, even though they had a really good pick at center last year, I thought maybe one of the best picks in the entire draft, and it came in the second round. And Ryan Kalkbrenner, a guy I thought was completely underrated and should have been a first
Absolutely.
round pick. Honestly, a
Absolutely.
lottery pick, and he played like that last year. I still think they could use some more help at the center position. I've got them going and getting Jaden Quintus out of Kentucky. I really like this guy. 6'10", brings a lot in the front court for this team. I think he could be an exciting piece at center, whether he starts, whether he backs up Kalkbrenner. Just more size and physicality in that front court. They're good at 1 through 3. I feel comfortable with the way this team is designed. But yeah, 4 and 5, this team really needs some different players if they want to hit that next level after making the playoffs last year. So I like Jaden Quintus to kind of upgrade that center position.
I like it. All right.
Now, here at 15, I've got the Sacramento Kings, but you've got the Chicago Bulls. Where do you have my Bulls going here?
So I look at it this way. I look at going Caleb Wilson at that 4 position. I agree. I just don't have it in this NBA draft. I do think moving on from Josh Giddey would be the right thing for the team as a whole. And I think of, truly, I think the best position you could go and give would be another guard here if you do move on from Giddey. And someone who kind of, I think, has a skill set similar to Kobe White a little bit in that, because I know how much you love Kobe White. I got them getting Cameron Carr from Baylor in this one. Now, I know, obviously, if you didn't pay attention to Baylor this year because they weren't good, ladies and gentlemen, I get that. But Carr was the big thing. Led the team in scoring, shot nearly 40% from three, looked a lot like a 3-and-D role player, which puts him in multiple ways. If you want to give him more opportunities at the 1 position or the 2, you can do that. If you're keeping Giddey and you want to run it with Giddey, Carr, Buzelis, Wilson, and then whatever at center, he can be a good 3-and-D piece to start that rebuild there in Chicago. So someone with that versatility, I think he's good. Plus, he's got NBA bloodlines, son of a former NBA player, Chris Carr. So I think it's a good move for the Bulls there. Sets them up where either way, if they keep Giddey or if they don't, they can use him in whatever role they think is best for him.
I like that pick a lot. But at number 15, I've got the Kings. I still think you get Giddey. Guard is still pretty prevalent need for this team. I like them going out and getting LeBaron Philon out of
Oh,
Alabama. I think he's the
that's
right
good.
type of playmaker and
That's a good
creator
one.
that could kind of help run the show off the bench for this team.
Oh, I like that one. That LeBaron Philon's kind of an
Agreed.
underrated guy because he's great scorer and everything. But I just think there's so many good guards in this draft. He just kind of
You
falls
forget
down a
about
bit,
him.
and you forget
Yeah.
that he's in there.
I completely agree, but I like him heading to Sacramento to be the guard of the future. At number 16, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies coming up yet again. And so after we both had them taking Cameron Boucher with their first pick, where do you got them going here with their second pick in the first round?
I look at once again trying to just upgrade that front court again because I think they've got a lot of good pieces at shooting guard. I think getting that forward position again could really work, and someone who's a big guy that can move like a wing, can alter shots and really help on the defensive end. I've got Chris Senac Jr. from Houston, a big man, true freshman there. He's a guy who maybe isn't the greatest shooter in the world. He's an amazing defender, and I mean an amazing defender, and it would be great on a whole lot of NBA teams. And I look at him as more of like a project kind of piece, especially on the offensive end. And in Memphis, they really don't know what they're doing as far as their future concerned. After trading Jaren Jackson, there's questions about John Morant, if they're getting Bouger or Peterson, whoever it is, at number 3. And I think getting someone who could be a project at that 3 position, who gives you great defense, a lot of length and versatility. I think he could be someone that could help, especially when it comes to being physical. Whenever you need Edie to go on off the court and you need a big bruiser kind of guy in there with Bouger, I think that could be a good piece for Memphis there.
Yeah, I like that pickup a lot. But for me, I they address some front court needs. I think here in this spot and with some of the guys I had left on the board, maybe going and attacking the guard position and maybe curing a little bit of any doubts of what your future might be if you move on from Jaw. I like them going out and getting Braden Burries from Arizona.
Mm.
This guy's a super good talent, kind of like you talked about earlier. And I think he could be a really good piece, whether he plays alongside Walter Clayton Jr., whether he starts over him. I think he could be a great addition to be a kind of replacement in that backcourt in the event that John Morant is traded, which it looks is kind of likely at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it feels inevitable. And I could see them going with a guard. I will say, though, the reason partly why I kind of went with him at the forward position was I truly felt like they might try to give it one last chance with John Morant. There's a part of me that thinks that, and getting any defense to help with some low scoring from Boozer and having him come off the bench with his defensive versatility could help them. But I mean, we thought Jaw was going to get traded last offseason and at the trade
Yeah.
deadline, just like we are assuming that the big Giannis trade is actually going to happen. So what the heck do we even know? But I like that pickup. I like it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we should check Shams Kalshi account. What is that looking like?
What is he
Um,
saying there? Hey, him and Giannis, don't forget, Giannis is an investor in like one of the people at Kalshi. So
yeah,
him and Shams together, who knows?
yeah, who knows? That could be some kind of insider trading that maybe needs to be looked into. Um, then we've got Cameron. Sorry, I just spoiled my pick. At 17, I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder picking. I'll go ahead and say
Yeah, I
my
was about
pick.
to say.
I just spoiled it. Cameron Carr out of Baylor. You talked a lot about this guy, and what you really brought up that I like about this guy, the 3-and-D aspect. And after moving on from Aaron Wiggins to create cap room, if the Thunder do stay here and pick here, this could be a guy that is a replacement, is like a perfect fit for the kind of guard forward combo that this team likes to grab. Guys that can shoot the ball and guys that can play good defense.
Mhm.
Cameron Carr does both of those things really, really well. And that's just another guy that SGA can run around with the ball. And when he gets three guys, he's got another shooter on the floor. They play gritty defense. They like to shoot the three ball. This is a perfect Aaron Wiggins replacement in my mind. Who do
Mm.
you have? You have the Mavericks picking here, correct?
Yes, I do. And I look at it this way with the Mavs. They went with Lendeborg. He got his Michigan piece. Now you talked about it. It's a new rebuild there. I know they still have Kyrie and people think they're going to keep him, but I think there's a perfect Kyrie replacement that can come off the bench and be a good scorer with that second unit, and that's LeBaron Faiwan Jr. from Alabama. I think he's someone that can come off the bench for a year or two behind Kyrie, really two talented scorers, learn a lot from Kyrie, and then when they decide to move on from him, pair him up with Cooper Flag, Lendeborg. That's a special big three that could work out in Dallas if they were to do that. So that's where I got LeBaron Bylon again, a guy who, having watched a lot of SEC basketball this year with being an Arkansas fan, he shouldn't fall to 17. And if he does, it's just because the guard room, like I said earlier, is so loaded this year.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting what happens with the Thunder's picks, kind of like we talked about. I'm with you. I think maybe they can move on from it. But yeah, if the Mavericks were able to make that kind of stuff happen, uh, it's going to be a lookout for what Dallas could do under Dusty May's first year. At 18, the Charlotte Hornets back on the clock. Where do you have them going? Do you have them going front court again? Do you have them adding another guard to an incredible guard room? Where do you have them going here?
No, that doubling down, kind of similar to what I do in Memphis, doubling down on that front court. Because here's the thing, like I talked about with the great guards, with all these great guards going up super high, that's going to lead to more forwards just dropping and dropping. So this is the year where if you truly need a forward or a center that and you're near the end, you could actually have a really good chance of getting someone even higher than you thought. And I look at it this way. I think Kalkbrenner's awesome there. I agree with you. Kalkbrenner should have been a first round pick. Was awesome whenever he played. If you're going to have Merez Johnson most likely at the 4, you could use a backup at the 5 or someone maybe if Kalkbrenner does not work out or they want to go a different direction. And that's where I have Hans Steinbeck from Washington going here. Just a guy who maybe needs to do some more building up in strength, but he can do that coming off the bench, learning behind Kalkbrenner. And you talked about him again. He's pretty strong already, but getting stronger, developing and learning, getting better in that front court. Like I said, Charlotte has to establish a front court at that 4 and 5 spot. And I think if you get Merez Johnson, then Heinz Steinbach, you're feeling a lot better about your front court than you did last year already.
Yeah, I'm with you. You got to double down on the front court. I've got him getting Jaden Quitness already. I like him going Karam Lopez here.
Ooh,
This guy, like you said, he's exciting. And I think he could be the kind of spot where expectations wouldn't be high right away to come in, and then he could come out and kind of explode as a piece for this team down the road. But I think getting another forward here, and again, trying to push Miles Bridges out of the NBA is always kind of the ideal result coming out of this NBA draft. But this is a team more than anybody I think needs as much front court help as they can possibly get. And so I also have them doubling down here.
all
At
right.
19, we've got the Toronto Raptors on the board. Do you have the Raptors staying put here, or do you have somebody moving up to this spot?
No, I got the Raptors sticking here, and it was very clear walking away from that game seven against the Cavs, the two things that they were going to focus on this offseason. And that was more depth at point guard and getting some more help at the center position because Jared Allen went to absolute work against them. I have them going with the guard because Hans Steinbach just went. If he's available, that's probably who I'd have him picking. But going here, speaking of guards that continue to just fall down the board, I've got the Raptors getting Bennett Sturts from Iowa with this pick. I think he's a true point guard in this spot, someone who can create on his own, but also is so unselfish with the ball, can set up Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, RJ Barrett, all those guys super well. I think this is a move that would make sense, and he could fit well in that Raptors offense, being that extra help at that point guard position that they need.
I'm with you. Front court at that center position, they could use help. Point guard, they could use help. I've got them going point guard here. I'm with you. I think that that's kind of as tough as it was down low. They do have lengthy athletic guys that can
Exactly.
maybe make the jump next year. But as far as guards concerned, they do need some help. Emmanuel quickly just hasn't been as good as it looked like he was going to be. And Jamal Sheed was really, really good, but he needs some help. I've got them going with Christian Anderson out of Texas Tech here.
Ooh.
Same thing with kind of Houston guys. I just love Texas Tech guys. I think they have a different kind of grit and energy to them. And I think Christian Anderson is another guy that can just add another level of versatility to this team. He could be a great impact off the bench point guard for the Toronto Raptors, and that's where I've got him going here.
All right. I like that pickup. I like that.
At number 20, the Western Conference champion San Antonio Spurs on the board. What do you have the Spurs doing here after coming up shy in the NBA Finals?
Yeah, of course, they got this in the I talked about the DeJounte Murray trade recently. That's where they got this one from. The Spurs, to me, I think you could use some more forwards at the position. I think the forward position is where they could go to kind of improve. And I got them getting Alan Graves from Santa Clara. Yeah, we got Santa Clara going in the first round once again, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's someone that could grow alongside Carter Bryant. Here's the thing with Graves. He was a point guard before he had a late growth spurt and got all the way up to 6'8". So someone that can handle the ball, was really one of the more efficient people in college basketball last year. He was one of those guys, but was one of those super high analytics guys. That was just, when you watch him play, you're like, okay, maybe. But then when you look at the analytics, you're like, wow, he really helped them out here. And so I think with that, just bringing some positive energy when he's on the court, when it comes to scoring and all that, I think him and Carter Bryant learning in that Spurs system, I think could be a match and something really special for the Spurs in that forward positions. That's where I got the Spurs going here at 20.
Yeah, I like Alan Graves. I like that pick. He's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if when we get to draft night, we're hearing his name called late in the lottery.
I like that. That's
Honestly,
fair.
he has that kind of depth. Obviously, you didn't do that. I didn't do that. But I could see a
I
team
see it.
getting that kind of value out of him because he is a talent, like you said. At number 20, I agree they need help in the front court. I think specifically they really need somebody who can play in Wemby's absence. And
Hmm.
for me, they have the perfect kind of guy in Chris Sinak Jr. from Houston on the
Mhm.
board. If he could come in and be kind of that defensive anchor when Wemby comes off the floor, this team would be the Spurs would have been much better last year. It's nothing against Luke Cornett. He had like the highlight block, But him and Bismack Biyombo and Miles Plumlee, they're just a
Yeah.
bunch of old centers who are past their time. Getting a young athlete who can come in when Wemby needs a break and swat balls off the backboard and continue to scare players out of the paint, I
Hmm.
think adds another edge to this Spurs team that really, really will kind of negate some of that downside of having to take Wemby off the court. And we just saw just how poorly the Spurs played when Wemby was off the floor. I think he could cure at least some of the defensive problems that the Spurs faced this past season.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like the setup there. Again, front court needed to be the thing either way for the
Yeah,
Spurs. So absolutely.
agreed. At number 21, the Detroit Pistons are on the board. And after being the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, looking to retool and get ready to head back on another playoff push. What do you have them doing here?
Look, let's just say it like it is. We all know what Detroit needs on this roster. They need guys that can create and score and are aggressive looking to score. Hmm. And I know just the perfect guy that is still on the board here. Someone I've seen a lot of, and I think he's a great fit. I've got Malik Thomas from Arkansas going here at 21. Speaking of someone that watched him all year, and I love the quote from Calipari, who said Thomas has the confidence to quote run for president, is what Calipari said. That's one of the hilarious things, and that's the thing. He's someone who can create on his own and is not scared of trying to create and shoot the ball. And we saw him step up when Darius was injured. He had some great moments, but his shooting ability and just the confidence he has with the basketball in his hand, that's what Detroit needs because the only one that does that is Cade Cunningham. So getting someone like Malik that is another creator for them, I think would be a perfect fit there in Detroit.
For me, with Detroit, I have them taking Alan Graves here.
Oh,
I really like this
I don't
pickup,
hate that one.
and I think the way he can stretch the floor out
Hmm.
for this team is what really excites me. He shot 41% from three last year on 7 attempts per game. Just to give you kind of an insight to the way this guy plays, but he uses his size. He's a talented rebounder. I could see him maybe being like a small five in the NBA if Jalen Duran maybe doesn't return. Of course, they do have, bird rights, and he is a restricted free agent. It'd be really tough to push the Pistons away from that. But I think he still spreads out the floor. Something this team really wanted to do at the trade deadline was get more shooters. And the guys that they got just didn't shoot very
Hmm.
well. To get a guy that shoots 41% in college, can handle the ball like a guard, has the 6'9" size, and a great rebounder, I think he upgrades this teams in a lot of areas and helps take a lot of pressure off of Cade Cunningham.
Ooh, all right. I like that. I like that pickup. Excellent.
At number 22, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers. You got the Sixers here, or you got them moving on?
This is where Embiid gets. I'm kidding. No, there's no Embiid trade here. I will say if the Sixers are, and it seems like they are, going to try this again with Embiid next year, they have to address the backup center position. The man just cannot be trusted to stay on the floor. That is a non-negotiable in the discussion. So I wouldn't be shocked if a center falls that they like. They could go up and trade for him. I wouldn't be shocked. But with where they're at now, I think Henry Vasar, the big from North Carolina, I think would be a good fit at the backup center. He's an agile big. He's got a good shooting touch. He's pretty good playmaking, really good at baseline. That's one thing I saw him in North Carolina. His baseline playmaking was really good. He's also offers rim protection. He's 7 foot tall and can help on defense. I mean, shoot, with his ability to stretch the floor, he could play next to Embiid if you really wanted to switch up and try lineups. But you need, if you're going to try to compete with Embiid as your center, you got to get better depth at backup center. I think Henry Vasar can be that for them.
I agree that they need help at backup center. Unfortunately, I also think with how much money this team spent, and Paul George kind of playing a four last year,
Hmm.
this team really needs to find a starting caliber three
I
in
get
this
that. I see
draft.
that.
They're not going to have the money to really fill out the lineup with quality guys as far as starters are concerned. Maybe Kelly Oubre comes back, but I don't know that I want Kelly Oubre back personally.
Mm, that's
And so
fair.
I've got them taking Dalen Swain out of Texas. He's 6'8". I think he adds a little bit of an edge. He's a talented scorer. But I like the height at 6'8", and to be able to play the three is good for them
Mm,
just because Paul George is going to be a little bit undersized at the four. Obviously, your guards are good, but they're a little bit undersized at 6'3" and 6'4", respectively. So I like a guy who can maybe bring some size and maybe make guys a little bit uncomfortable with his size, where you're not just completely outclassed size-wise from one to
that's
four.
fair.
So I like them getting Dalen Swain and trying to fill out this starting lineup. But I agree, I can definitely see a world where they take a center here too, just to hedge their bets on Embiid.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
At 23, I have the Atlanta Hawks picking here again. You've got the Milwaukee Bucks after a massive trade for Giannis. So who do you have the Bucks bringing here in their third pick of the first round?
Well, so just to recap, ladies and gentlemen, remember I went with Keaton Wagler with the first one, Nate Amen at the second one. I would say if Vasar was here to go with Vasar at this pick at the center, and that could be a good core. But also at this point, I think a guard fell a little bit in mind that could fall due to stuff I'm hearing about his size. But I think his upside's good, and he's a Texas Tech Red Raider, and that's Christian Anderson. So you could have a core setup of Anderson at the one, Wagler at the two, Nate Amen at the three, and then you can figure out whatever you want to with that 4 or 5 position, whether that be this year or next year, whatever you want to go with there. But I just think Christian Anderson, I think, like I said, he's a gritty guy from Texas Tech. The thing that has me worried again, 6'1", the height always is a question with some of these guys, and that includes Darius Acuff, who maybe at points is a question defensively, but his ability in the pick and roll, I think, is going to help out a lot. And having him and Keaton Wagler, that gives them two guys that can create on the perimeter at the guard position, and also two guys that could be catch and shoot perimeter shooters coming off those pick and roll opportunities. So that's who I got the Bucks picking here, setting up that new core for the post Giannis era.
I like that. I like that a lot. At 23, I've still got the Atlanta Hawks here, and we've addressed the need in the guard room, getting Kingston Flemings. Now I think you need to go out and get a true center, somebody who can actually present some size down low. And so I've been taking Matijus Krivas out of Arizona. This guy's 7'2". I think he's a solid talent, and I think he could be a nice upgrade for this team. Down low, you think about guys like Onyeka Ngakwu, who is 6'8", very talented. I think he really came into his own this season,
Yeah.
but still giving up a lot of height. I think this could be a guy that maybe starts at the bench presence and then could transition into a starter later. It feels like I know a little bit of a reach for them based on where a lot of people have him going.
Right.
But I think this guy is a good fit, and he doesn't, again, with this team, I don't think he needs to start right away.
I agree. I see that as a logical argument there. He doesn't have to start right away. And it's an Atlanta Hawks team where really there's all kinds of question marks about what the future is. So there's no rush there. Like I said, Onyeka Okongwu was really good. He can learn from him. So that's absolutely a good one. I like that for Atlanta.
At 24, NBA champ, New York Knicks are on the board. Where do you have the Knicks going here as they look to reload for another championship run?
So when the season started, if you look at where the season started and then where I have this guy going that I have going to the Knicks here, I couldn't tell you I don't believe it. Obviously the address elephant in the room. The Knicks won the NBA title. Mitchell Robinson was great for you. He's a free agent this offseason. So you need some guys. Maybe you don't get center because the center position is kind of spent here with guys unless you want to trade back. So maybe you just want to go for guys who are good rebounders and just tough all around for you. And a guy I think that could be that for the Knicks, I got Koa Pete from Arizona going to the Knicks here at 24. It's so funny, looking at up stuff about him, that his bloodline is from a bunch of offensive linemen, which is just stuff that's really kind of funny when you think about it. His uncle was a Pro Bowl tackle. Two brothers played on the O-line in college. And you can see in how he plays. He's a powerful guy when he attacks the rim, super physical. It takes a lot to stop him from where he wants to go on the floor, and it gives them someone to create and also just someone good off the bench for clutch rebounding because with everything they have signed in the trades, it's almost impossible for them to bring Mitchell Robinson back, and that's completely fair. And Mitchell Robinson's earned the opportunity to make a lot of big money for being a key piece on an NBA championship team. So I get that for both sides. Koa Pete can provide a lot of different things, I think, on this New York Knicks roster.
For me, I kind of look at this team and I look at the guard room. They had a lot of good guards, guys like Landry Shamet, Jose Alvarado came in, Jordan Clarkson. And I think you're going to see some of those guys are going to be gone, whether it be by trade or by free agency. Obviously, Jose Alvarado's got a team option. I don't necessarily know that that gets picked up.
Mhm.
But a guy I think could be a nice replacement to a lot of those guys on the bench is Bennett Sturts out of Iowa. I think this guy's a good
Ooh.
shooter. Like you said, a good creator as well, comfortable with the ball in his hands. This is a guy I could see when Brunson's off of the floor, which we had to see at times this postseason. This is a guy who I feel like you could bring in and have the confidence to put the ball in his hands and allow this guy to kind of run your offense. And you don't have to force it into somebody's hands. I think the thing that I really didn't like about the bench play, though it was good from the Knicks, is you had Landry Shamet or Miles McBride or Jordan Clarkson or Jose Alvarado just bringing the ball up the floor and taking the worst shot you've ever seen, and it
Yeah,
just
that's
being
fair.
a air ball. And those guys are really talented, really good shooters. But I think Bennett Sturts brings you a little bit more playmaking where those guys kind of lack the ability to kind of run the offense. And then maybe you can kind of thin the crowd of a few of those guys and hang around the guys you think are most important. But I just think there was way too much bad shots off the bench, and there
That's
was
fair.
not enough creating when Jalen Brunson was off the floor. And I think Bennett Sturts could bring that as a bench point guard for them.
All right. I like that. Bennett Shirts, that'd be awesome to learn from Jalen Brunson if that was for him. That'd be a great pickup.
At number 25, we've got the Los Angeles Lakers picking. What do you have the Lakers doing here with it feels like the infinite needs this team is going to have this offseason?
So to me, and again, I made this point very early on, kind of talking about with the Lakers, you need to start planning for Luca now. I know there's rumors all about LeBron, what he's doing this offseason. You need to start playing around Luca. And Austin, we talked about what's the best thing to surround Luca with? That's defense.
Oh,
It's
defense.
got to be defense and so like 3-and-D guys, essentially, pretty much.
Yeah,
But defense and a guy who I think is a versatile wing defender that could help him. Someone you talked about, Dalen Swain from Texas. I know he's a guy, maybe not the best shooter in the world. And I get that there's arguments for that. But he's a super aggressive driver, a phenomenal defender to pair on the other end of Luca. And someone at 6'7" that can do a lot of switching, can rotate to several positions. I think that's good, and it's a positive. If he gets to play early, it gives him more ability to work on that jump shot, make that better for the Lakers in the years to come. If LeBron comes back, he can learn in the G League or learn behind LeBron on the small forward position. Not bad learning from LeBron James if you get that opportunity. Last I checked, so that's why I got the Lakers picking at 25.
at 25, I think the Lakers addressing a need in the front court. I mean, my goodness, this
That's a
team
fair
at
point.
center has just been abysmal. I agree. Let's keep this pick. Let's build for Luca. I like them going out and getting a guy like Henry Vassir out of North Carolina.
Ooh.
I think he could bring that kind of difference making in the front court. They haven't had a 7-footer running around in the paint for a minute there in LA. And I think this guy could be a difference maker that kind of grounds the paint, brings you a center that you're going to have for years to come, and somebody that can learn alongside Luca.
All right, that's good. Again, I'm glad we're in green on this. If you're the Lakers, it's like LeBron. If you want to come back, awesome. But we're building this for the future around Luca. You just got to realize that.
Agreed. You can't. This first round pick cannot be traded for somebody else. It just
Exactly.
can't be. You need to make a pick here and have somebody you've got team control over for the next 4 years. We can't be trading for guys who are in their last 1 or 2 years of their contract. It's time to build around Luca. At 26, Denver Nuggets are on the board here. Who do you have the Denver Nuggets taking here as they try to kind of gear up here, maybe for another playoff run?
Yeah, a lot of different ways they could go here, I think. To me, though, they need some variety to their half court offense besides having Jokic initiate every single thing. And I think a guy that could help with that, Abuka Okori from Stanford. Now, this is someone who, again, if you watch a lot of college basketball. You know who this is. For those that don't know, this is the guy that transferred to Stanford this year and led the ACC in scoring at Stanford. I know it still feels weird to say Stanford's in the ACC. It's never going to get not weird. But he had 8 30-point games, a phenomenal scorer, a guy that was given the ball in his hands late to take the clutch shots and create one of the best driving guards in the NBA. And I know this leads to questions about what you do with Jamal Murray. When now, if he starts for you, great. If he doesn't, he gets to learn from a guy who is one of the more underrated guards in the history of the NBA. So I think the guard position, getting some more variety in that half court, I think is a must for the Nuggets in this draft.
To me, what I really want the Nuggets to look at is adding another forward who can kind of add
That's fair.
some depth to this team. They made the move from Michael Porter Jr. to Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson just did not play as well as they thought he was
No.
going to. A guy I think could be kind of a semi replacement to that is Koa Pete. I like them bringing him in. He's an aggressive rebounder. He's a really talented scorer. And I think what this could really do that I think would bolster the Nuggets is move Aaron Gordon to the three, allowing him to
Mm,
defend some of the best threes in the NBA, some of the best players in the NBA,
I like
which we
that.
saw in that championship run. He's very capable of doing.
Yeah.
And this adds some more size, physicality, and athleticism down to the front court around Jokic.
Okay, I like that. I like that move. Aaron Gordon to the three. Of course, it will depend how he is coming off these injuries in recent years, though. That's the question. But I like that, putting Aaron Gordon at the three there, because like I said, underrated defender, can guard a lot of guys. I like that.
And number 27, Boston Celtics here. I don't even remember if the Celtics are picking here after all your trades, but the Celtics are picking here for me. What do you have happening at the 27th pick?
Um, so for me, I guess I didn't really say that in the deal. I will say this. I do have the Boston Celtics sticking here. I could also see this going to Atlanta in that deal. I could see it for that. Either way, regardless of if it was Atlanta or Boston here, I think the fact that this guy fell and could learn from either place would be good. I got Jaden Quintance, the center from Kentucky, going here to the Celtics at 27. Namias Queta was great last year. Namias Queta was awesome. But let's face it, they did not go into last year thinking Namias Queta is our long-term answer at center. Now, does that mean Jaden Quintance maybe is yours either? No, but with the way Namias Queta played last year, he's going to earn some money here really soon, and rightfully so, because he played his butt off for Boston this past year. So you need to set someone up, and Jaden Quintance coming in now, obviously really good, but we have to go with the notion, the obvious thing. And that's when before he hurt his knee, he suffered that serious knee injury at Arizona State and just didn't get to ever play for Kentucky this year. So I there's questions there, but he can go to Boston, a team that's going to be contending where they are not expecting him to make a massive impact in year one. He can get fully recovered, get his confidence, and when at that point, maybe they can look at him and take over some more minutes at that center position.
Yeah, I'm also looking at somebody for Boston that can handle the center position and at least again add some depth because even if you think you've got your answer at center, Vucevic is a free agent, probably not going to bring him back. So you still need to fill this gap, whether you think you've got your answer or not. And so I like them going and getting a guy who I thought was super underrated last year, and Joshua Jefferson out of Iowa
Ooh.
State, and
Mm.
him potentially being an answer or at least somebody to add into that rotation at the center position and kind of help this team get younger
Mm.
and still be a competitor. That's the thing I think the Celtics would be missing out on if they were to make a Giannis deal. It's not that I don't think Giannis is a good player, but I think Jaylen Brown's played really well, and I think you play a lot better in the playoffs if Jason Tatum has more than a month of basketball under his belt. I think it would be too much of a panic reaction. I think to me, going out using this draft to fill out your roster and letting Tatum and Brown run it back is the best thing for this team.
I like that. That's a good one. Again, we both agree again. Namias Queta is really good, but they got to have other guys there at center. Like I said, because Vucevic is gone. We saw them try to start Luka Garza in Game 7, which I still can't believe that lineup. I might have to post that graphic in here again just because I can't believe that was the starting lineup for a Game 7. But we saw Luka Garza not really be able to do much there. So do you really have confidence in him being your second center? I don't know.
Yeah, it was silly to say the least. At number 28, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves here. What do you have the Timberwolves doing here after their run of Western Conference Finals was ended this past postseason?
I look at the guard position again for them, and that's just to get some more depth because, Ayo Dosamu and Bones Highland are both upcoming free agents. Both guys were awesome for the Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves also have put a lot of money into other pieces, and they can maybe bring back one of those guys. I don't think they're going to be able to bring back both, and that's just
Agreed.
an obvious caveat. So I have them getting a guard. This had Malik Thomas still been on the board, I thought this would have been a perfect place for him to go be behind Anthony Edwards. He's not here, so I have the Timberwolves getting Isaiah Evans from Duke. Really good shooter, guy that can learn from Ant, obviously, that two guard position, be a good backup, but someone that can create if Ant goes down or when Ant gets to the bench. To me, it's got to be get some more guard depth there because your forward and center positions are kind of set. You need to get some more guard depth there in case of injuries and guys can step up like we saw in this postseason.
Yeah, I also have him going guard, and it's funny you talk about the guy you would have had going here if he was on the board. That's who I have going here. Malik
Hey,
Thomas. I like you said, I think he would be a good fit on this team and add a different level to this guard room. He's a very talented piece, and I think he'd fit very, very well with the culture in Minnesota. So I like Malik Thomas here, deepening the guard room.
all right. Yeah, that was, if he was there, I would have been like, man, that'd be such a perfect fit. And I think he could be a perfect fit there behind Anthony Edwards.
At number 29, the Cleveland Cavaliers are on the board. Where do you have the Cavs going after a disappointing finish and some interesting moves to start their offseason?
Well, let's just say like it is, Austin. They need help at the three position. The forward position, the small forward is where they need it because, like we talked about, DeAndre Hunter was not doing so well for them, so then they had to ship him off. Tyson came in and gave them some good minutes, but they're going to need some more help besides Tyson having a spark every now and then. I got them getting a guy, Amari Allen from Alabama. Good forward there. Really good defensive guy. Kind of see some similarities to DeAndre Hunter there with being a really good defensive guy. Decent shooter as well. He's someone that maybe you can start Tyson this year if you're running that lineup. And then going with Allen maybe the next year or swapping those two in now. I think Allen could be a guy to put into that three guards, into that forward spot and help this Cavs team maybe get over the hump. I've made my point about them on that, so I won't dive into that. But that's who I got the Cavs picking.
It's fun to get this late in a draft and have a pick matchup
Hey,
exactly. I also have Amari Allen, and for a lot of the same reasons. I think my biggest thing against Tyson is that he is just too small.
yeah,
Their lineup is already too small. Mitchell 6'4", Harden 6'3", Tyson is 6'4". You can't that didn't work. That clearly doesn't work. I think Amari Allen being 6'8", like you said, brings a lot of good defense. His scoring maybe is going to leave some questions coming into the NBA, but you don't need him to score right away. You've got
exactly.
Harden, you've got Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think you're all right as far as perimeter scoring goes. This would be a guy that comes in and kind of anchors the defense, which they desperately need on the perimeter. I think Amari Allen is kind of the no-brainer at this spot for them.
I,
And number 30, Dallas Mavericks on the board. What do you have happening here?
so I didn't really know where to go because obviously I had the Mavs trading back and I had them getting LeBaron Philo and Axel Lindenborg. I thought maybe they go and get a two guard because, like you said, the Klay Thompson situation there is kind of eh. And the one I have going with, I kind of had to dig in a little bit more research on who I wanted them to go with. And I thought, what can they go with? Maybe they go with someone because if they can't figure out someone for Clay, they might have to go with someone that they can build and try to take over next year because it's a young team. That's where I have Jack Kale from Germany going here. He's a combo guard. Originally was committed to Gonzaga back in October, but then he entered the draft process because he had played in Germany and he went there. He became one of the youngest players to ever win the German League's Under 22 Player of the Year award. The other two guys that won that notably, Franz Wagner, last I checked, he turned out pretty good in the NBA, and Dennis Schroeder, one of the best role players in the NBA. Still today, you can make an argument for that. So I think this could be one that they look at the long-term future yet again with Dallas and get him as that two guard, kind of there to learn under Clay for a year or two and set them up for a future post Clay and Kyrie and have that backcourt of him and LeBaron Philon.
I'm with you. I think for the Mavs, in my mind, this is where you need to get a guard.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of with you at this spot, a lot of the explosive, exciting hits are off the board. So maybe more of a project to kind of play behind some of the guys you already have, Chris Middleton, Klay Thompson. Can this is where this guy can go. I've got him taking Dame Sar here out of Duke. And
It's not a bad one.
he wasn't as good as everybody thought he was going to be when he got to Duke. Scoring left a lot to be desired, but he's lanky, he's athletic, and he's a pretty good defender. And with all that, you can mold out a pretty good NBA player being lanky, being athletic, and being a good defender. And so I think this could be a year where it's really just a development year. Maybe he plays a lot in the G League. But then next year we could really see some growth with Dame Sar.
I like it. Hey, that was my other guy, but either one I think would work because they can come in that situation, like you said, be a project guy that they can kind of build on for that future guard room.
Yeah, I completely agree. But that's all 30 picks
Woo!
in the NBA draft to get us ready. Exciting. I had a lot of chaos on both of our draft boards
Yeah.
here.
Sure hope they come true. Sure hope they come true.
Yeah, I would like to see some of these picks happen. But now's the time. You've watched the episode. You've seen what we think
Yeah.
now. Coming up tomorrow, as of the recording of this episode, NBA draft actually happens. So everybody sit down,
Mm-hmm.
pay attention, and we're going to see what the future of the NBA looks like after Tuesday night.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be awesome. You know, as of right now, again, keep in mind, as of right now with this recording, this is where it is ending. So
Yeah.
we hope this isn't a third week in a row where we have something break at like 8 p.m. at night right after we're done recording and do that. So if I have to edit this and I'm just going to cut myself off here and say, you idiot, why did you say that? You know, why did you have to open your mouth? We'll see. Again, there's all kinds of rumors going on right now about what could happen tomorrow night. The question is the stuff that what could happen versus what will happen. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that could bring us back to the TV to the computer screen tonight is a Giannis trade, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So we'll see what happens, but for now, that'll do it for us here at the Bull Take Podcast. That's Austin Later. I'm Austin Hill, and we want to thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need to learn to just shut up. I need to learn to just shut my stupid little mouth. It is currently 10:58 p.m. on Monday night. We finished our mock draft multiple hours ago. I am in the process of literally about to export it and set it to post for tomorrow at noon. And all of a sudden, now is when the deal happens. The deal is finally done. Giannis is finally been traded. And the one of us that got it right, if you watched the episode, we each went different ways. This man had it right. Milwaukee Bucks are trading Giannis and Bobby Portis to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Yaka Jonas, 3 first-round picks, including pick 13 in the NBA draft tomorrow night, which will be today by the time this gets uploaded. 1 pick swap and 1 second-rounder. Austin, the deal we wondered if it was ever going to happen is finally done. First thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said to you, if Giannis didn't get traded tonight, Shams, Kalshi, and Giannis are gonna be in some kind of Rico racketeering scandal come tomorrow. Because yeah, we can't have, two big trade periods in a row where Shams is like, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and then it doesn't happen. But to me, this just felt like the Teal and the team that was more desperate to make something happen. Obviously, when we think about Miami, they've been the team a couple times here in the last few trade worlds. When you think about Kevin Durant, when you think about LeBron coming back into the free agency, the team that's been aggressive in trying to get some of these big names, whether by trade or by free agency, and they always end up second place in these ordeals. Even as far as the Jimmy Butler saga when they brought Jimmy Butler in. So they're always kind of aggressive, always trying to get these big names and bring them in to try and build to their team. Um, and so I felt like they were the team that would be more desperate and give up more to make this deal happen. And ultimately, I think that's what they got. That's why this deal got done. I mean, just like to hit on what you said, Harrow, Kalel Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Casper Jaconis. You're talking about three first round picks, a pick swap, and a second round pick. This is a lot more than what Boston had to offer. Obviously, draft pick wise, they don't have this much to offer. You think about really the best piece that Boston has in Jaylen Brown, which doesn't really fit with the reset
Mhm.
in Milwaukee. And so, yeah, it would take Atlanta having to offer up their draft assets like you kind of proposed in our mock draft. And ultimately, I just wonder if Atlanta wasn't willing to make the sacrifices on the behalf of the Celtics that maybe kind of fell through with that deal because it would have taken probably not just their picks in this year's draft, but more future picks
Mhm.
from Atlanta. And I just don't know if Atlanta sees that kind of value in Jaylen Brown when you think about giving the Celtics Giannis and what maybe you could build with this team, which you already accomplished last year, and bringing in guys through the draft of this year that both you and I kind of posed can maybe really help this team out a big time. So it's a big deal. Hopefully Giannis is happy. I wonder what this team will look like because guard wise, they're going to need some help now. You think about Jaconis and Harrow are gone. Obviously, Davion Mitchell, who's been a play-in legend, will still be around with Miami. But
Bam
kind of,
Adebayo, who just had who had like an 80 something point game this past year, he's
yeah.
still there.
So I just wonder kind of what the guard room is going to look like. I mean, I guess you do still have I'm blanking. Andrew Wiggins is who I was about to say
Yeah.
on this team. So it's not like the biggest holes, but I feel like you need to make more happen. I don't exactly know how they go about that, but I would be surprised if this is the last big move Miami makes this offseason, whether it's by free agency or by some other trade. I think they'll be looking to add a little bit more around Giannis and Bam.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add, more details have come out now in the last few minutes that we can dive into. So the thing is, the Heat, the other first round picks, the Heat are sending to Milwaukee unprotected first rounders in 2031 and 2033, along with that 13th pick, and then a pick swap in 2030 and a 2033 second rounder. And apparently, the Celtics, like they said, we knew were aggressively pursuing him, and they were offering a package featuring Jaylen Brown and only two first round picks. And end of the day, I'm not going to lie, if these are your two options for the trades, and the way they said it, it kind of makes it seem like there was no third team. It was just going to be straight up. And if those are the two deals, then I think that the Bucks made the right choice with this deal. I get Jaylen Brown's there, but the draft pick capital plus the young pieces you get from Miami compared to what Boston offers you straight up with Jaylen Brown, I think they made the right choice. What about you?
Yeah, I completely agree. You talk about that package and not even factoring in, Atlanta, who's rumored to be kind of that third team that might be hanging around. Yeah, if this is straight up and down, just Jalen Brown and a couple first round picks. One, that move to me makes zero sense for Boston. I just don't get Jalen Brown was so good this past
Mm,
year. I truly don't understand that dialogue. But just on top of that, I I I don't know what you do if you're Milwaukee. I don't really know how that helps you. Boston getting Giannis and Jason Tatum,
yeah.
probably not going to be a team picking in the lottery anytime soon. Not to say that Miami is any different, but those picks are so far down the road when you really look at it. 2031, 2033, a 2030 pick swap. I mean, those picks are all 4+ years out. Anything can happen between now and then. I mean, if Giannis, I think he's in the middle of an extension right now, so he can't sign an extension right away anyway.
Mhm.
But even if he did, probably wouldn't carry him much out past 2030, maybe 2031. So you're thinking about right now picks that are going to be probably past Giannis's time in Miami and probably
Yep.
past Giannis's prime as well as we start to get into. I mean, you get to 2033, and that's 20 years of Giannis's career. Crazy to think about, but the guy was drafted in 2013. So I think this is the better move. And again, I like Jalen Brown a lot, but Milwaukee is tearing it down. That's pretty clear.
Yep.
So bringing in Jalen Brown doesn't do you any good unless you've got, another trade lined up for Jalen Brown. Ultimately, I think you get good young talent. The oldest player you just acquired in this trade is 26 years old, and that's Tyler Hero. And then you add all those draft assets again that can be post Giannis and definitely post Giannis prime in Miami. So I like this deal for Milwaukee. I think it gets them started off right. I'll be interested to see kind of what happens with this team. I don't know that you'll just see them ship off a whole bunch of other guys, but I'd keep an eye on Kyle Kuzma. He hasn't really done
Hmm.
anything in
Yeah.
Milwaukee in his time
That's a good
there,
one.
and he's making a lot of money. And now bringing in guys like Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, I think now you're starting to get to a position where you're running out of room for a guy like Kyle Kuzma in this starting lineup and in this front court.
And you factor in again, they're going to have the number 10 pick and now the number 13 pick in the draft this year, where again, this is going to go at the end of the episode. At least that's what I'm going to try to do with editing this at frickin' 11 o'clock at night. But this is that would make sense for me because we both had Nate Ament going at number 10, I believe. And then I think I had other trades going, obviously, for Milwaukee. But then you factor that in again with what the actual package is. Again, maybe let's just look at it that way. If you have, Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Jaka Jonas, and then you get someone like Nate Ament or Kingston Fleming, someone else at that guard spot, that's not a bad core in Milwaukee, I think, given that. And also, the thing you hinted at again, that's so true. It's a lot of young pieces. And like I said, those draft picks are in the 2030s. So you can look at it and go, well, why would they trade for that? That's not for like 5 years or so from now. Like, what's the point? The point is, like you said, the price may not be now, but eventually that price is going to have to be paid by Miami. And you can use those picks once Giannis is gone. Those picks might be highly valuable. You know what that could remind you of? The Brooklyn Nets deal with the Boston Celtics, where we thought, oh, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and those guys all together in Brooklyn, trade those picks down the line. They'll be fine. They'll be competing. And well, we all know what happened with those picks. So
Yeah, a couple of those names we just said, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, any of those guys ring a bell
mhm.
to anybody? Those are just a few of the guys that Boston ended up with as a result of that trade.
Yeah. So, but ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's hard to be like over mind blown by this because let's face it, this has been rumored. Giannis has been rumored to be traded what's felt like for years. And now for it's finally be done, I'll give Shams credit. He, like you said, there was going to be an investigation because he said verbatim on shows, I expect the Giannis trade to happen tonight. And when it got to about 10:30, I remember I was getting ready to text you and be like, well, I guess I'm just going to upload the episode. And if the honest trade happens tomorrow, oh well, is what I was fully expecting. But it's here. And now you kind of hinted at talking about Milwaukee here. Let's talk about it with Miami about what the core would potentially be as of right now. The lineup right now for them would be Giannis, Bam, Norman Powell's there, Bobby Portis, Andrew Wiggins, you mentioned, Davion Mitchell, Nikola Jovic are the main ones. Not gonna lie, there's some pieces in there that could be really good for Miami to help them compete this year, especially on the defensive end.
Yeah, completely forgot about Norman Powell, and he was an all-star this year. So that's a blunder by me just talking about. But I still wouldn't be surprised if maybe they shopped around Jovic, maybe paired with like Andrew Wiggins, and maybe tried to get an upgrade at that 2 or 3 somewhere on the wing. You never know what might happen in this offseason. And let's be frank, I mean, some picks that I talked about in our mock draft, talked about 2028. 2029 draft picks that theoretically Miami would still have. And Pat Riley is no stranger to shipping off his first round picks
Mm-hmm.
to try and upgrade a team and compete. Did it with the Jimmy Butler era to bring that team together. So it wouldn't be anything different here. I would not be surprised if Miami is shopping Jovic, they're shopping maybe Wiggins or Powell. I would probably lean Wiggins and they're trying to get an upgrade on the wing. Maybe looking into Kevin Durant. I know he's not officially on the trade block, but I know things aren't. He's already thinking about where he's going to go when this contract ends in Houston.
And those rumors came out today saying that basically everyone except for Amen Thompson is available on the block for Houston. So,
Yeah.
we could see
I,
something.
I'm not gonna throw a bunch of smoke out there. I don't exactly know what it might look like for Miami, but I would not be surprised. I think Jovic is a really good piece to have still at your disposal, just because he's so young and has so much upside. He's going to have some value. And then, like I talked about, a couple first round picks for this team still kind of hang around. You probably have to pick swap
Yeah.
you'd have to pick swap at least one of them, probably 2028. Yeah, based
Yeah.
on everything that they've got here,
Yeah.
they'd be allowed to trade 29, but 28 would have to be pick swapped. So I think they've left the door open to make something happen. So I would be very surprised if this is the last big move we see Miami make this offseason.
I think so as well. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're just getting started. Uh, this is now the third episode in a row where we have had to separate it. Two for completely other reasons compared to the one for breaking news. And I'll go ahead and tell past self that is in this episode, you freaking doofus. I don't know why you had to open your mouth and say something because now this trade is officially happened. But the good news is with us adding this at the end of the episode, we're going to get to talk a lot more about the NBA draft as a whole next week and other moves in the offseason now that this giant domino has finally fallen. Giannis has been traded, ladies and gentlemen. I know our mock drafts kind of like don't make sense now. It's a little too late, and they decided to do this deal at like literally the most annoying time possible. Which, if you think about the history of this over the last couple of months, makes some sense. But I'm not going to keep this man any longer, and I'm not going to keep me any longer. The Giannis trade has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know if you think this is good for Miami and Milwaukee. Enjoy the NBA draft. And once again, like Austin said, for now, that is it for this episode of the Bull Take Podcast. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Wader, and want to thank you for listening.